Today we're taking a closer look at the Commencal Meta Ht. I own this bike and have been riding it for about a year now. Ever since I first threw a leg over it, I was really impressed with the fit and the finish, the way it felt, and how it handled itself out on the trail. This bike is a rough and tumble, aggressive hardtail meant to take on any terrain you throw at it, and to be a top contender for the top step of the hardtail class at your next enduro race. Its geo is closer to a modern enduro bike, which inspires confidence when the steep gets rough, but also giving you all the unique attributes that you can only experience while ripping a hardtail. Here are my thoughts after a year on the Commencal Ht Essential. This bike really has a lot going for it. This particular model is a 27 Plus version. It also comes in a 29er version, but I wanted something more nimble and playful to have fun on rather than try and blast descents, because to me, hardtails aren't about speed, they're about the infectious grin they produce. Thankfully, this frame accepts both 27.5 and 29er wheel sizes, so if you have a spare set of hoops, you should be able to swap them around to make for a very versatile bike. The 65-degree head tube mated with a 160 RockShox Yari RC inspires confidence to really open things up when you get the chance, but do not think twice about taking it down steep rocky drops you'd normally reserve for your long and slack full squish rig. The SRAM SX Eagle drivetrain gives you that broad range, making a bike that's naturally an awesome climber even better. The SX is SRAM's lower tier drivetrain, but its dependability and durability have been nothing short of stellar while keeping the overall cost down on this bike. The short 428mm chainstay makes this bike super playful, getting the front wheel off the ground with minimal convincing. It helps give this bike the character of wanting to find every little hip and rock to pop off of, making for a fun and active descent. Though this bike is playful by nature, it won't balk if you point it straight down through the rough or the steep. Yeah, it'll be a little bumpy having the stiff rear triangle, but the Yari up front keeps things composed at the bars to let you get as rowdy as your nerves will allow. Stock saddles on bikes are usually just takeoff items, but I was extremely surprised with the WTB slate that came on this bike. So much so that I think it might be my new go-to saddle. It has just enough padding to it that those leg-numbing pressure points that come late in the long climb never arrived. Whew. Also, the 4-pot SRAM Guide T brakes give this bike plenty of stopping power. I've yet to have the feeling of needing more brake during a ride, but it also probably helps that this bike is so light compared to your average dual suspension trail bike that bringing it to a stop isn't a huge deal. This may be more of a preference point rather than a con, but I was really unimpressed with the plus size tires that this thing was spec'd with. The plus size is supposed to help with bump absorption and mitigate the chatter that's unavoidable with a hardtail. For me, these tires felt like zipping a coat with oven mitts on, and instead of increasing grip, these Maxxis Recon tires wanted to float over the surface more than dig in. I would rather see the 27.5 version of this bike come with a meaty 2.6 instead of the full-blown 2.8 plus tire. The reach on these bikes seem a little short in each size category. My bike here is a size large with a reach of only 445mm, shorter than most medium frames by the current standard. While this is a negative for me, some people will be elated with the shorter reach as it's another preference point. I would prefer to see a large, closer to a reach of 460mm though. On a couple occasions, mostly steep tech, the shorter nature of this bike has reminded me that I'm not on my big-wheeled enduro rig. Oh god. One reason I purchased this bike was to be able to pop on some 29-inch wheels and have a totally different bike to play on. I went into purchasing the 27 Plus bike with the assumption it would have a fork accepting 27 Plus and 29er wheels, but it wasn't until I tried fitting a bigger wheel on the bike that I had overlooked the online specs saying it's a regular 27.5 rated fork. So swapping this bike to a 29er setup will require fitting a different fork as well. I really only made minimal changes to this bike. I swapped out the 2.8 Recons for a 2.5 DHF up front and a 2.4 Ardent in the rear. This really made the bike come alive for me, giving it the much needed bite that it was missing while cornering and made it feel like a bike I could race rather than bouncing along on spongy rubber. I've also added tire inserts, which help to reduce some chatter and protect the rear rim from any sloppy riding I might throw at it. And lastly, a larger diameter barn stem. Not really because it needed it, but because I had one sitting on my bench. Overall, this bike is pretty amazing, and at $17.99 for the Essential, you can't beat the amount of capability this bike offers at that price point. I agree with Commencal that it's better to have a solid hardtail than a questionable dual suspension bike. Even the lower tier versions of this bike are a good base to start off. The base starts at $10.99 and you can always add parts down the line to improve it, but one thing you can upgrade on a bike is the geo of the frame, which is what the Meta Ht really has going for it. If each week you find yourself wanting to watch new mountain biking content, then you should help fill that void by subscribing. I'll try my best to answer any questions you guys might have in the comments below, but if you enjoyed this video, hit like. Thanks for watching today, you guys, and until next time, keep that rubber side down.